First, let's start by pointing out that SANE, not in the physical health aspect. You know what most YouTubers focus on people's well-being does. SANE refers to mental health, relevant information about mental health, the most important thing in a human being, mental health, in your way of thinking. I'll use the Albert Fish case as an example. On December 16, 1934, the United States Police captured Albert Fish, a serial killer. He was accused of kidnapping and murdering more than 45 children. He once claimed that his number of victims was around 100. However, it is unknown whether he was referring to kidnappings. The case received massive media coverage. This further increased public outrage. When the media published details of the murders, including how he confessed to his crimes against children, how he ate parts of some of the bodies, and the letters he sent to the victims' families, the case provoked a reaction of extreme hatred and rage in society. That's why, during his arrest and trial, there were people who wanted to tear him to pieces. In other words, to execute him before he was executed in the electric chair. Now, why do people react or think this way? Because people simply use the best knowledge they have, the tools they obtain from their environment. By the way, it seems like a good moment to point out that a serial killer is made by the environment. You needs a conference at least 2 or 3 hours long to talk about. The environment is everything. Basically, you can't study anything outside of the environment. It's a topic I'll make a video about later. So, there is no such thing as a good or bad person, no right or wrong. People's behavior is simply the perfect reflection of the world we live in. But a doctor named Wharton, a psychiatrist, asked the police, "Please, before you execute him, I want to investigate what makes people act or think that way, so we can avoid those conditions in the future." That's much better. That's a saner way of thinking. In other words, to completely disagree without getting angry. But you try to understand. It's a saner way of thinking. Now, let's say you are a teacher or have a child. When children draw something, do not simply look at their drawing and praise them. You should also correct them where they have made errors. Because if you only congratulate them without pointing out their errors, they will assume that it's already correct and will stop improving. Point out incorrect proportions, faulty perspective, inaccurate anatomy, or anything else in the drawing that does not make sense. For example, if they draw a person, make sure that the figure has proper body mass and that the surrounding objects are in proportion to the person's size. Because if you simply pick up their drawing and grade it, you will leave them in that state. Also, before your child is born, you recognize that you lack the necessary knowledge to raise your child more appropriately and seek help. That is a saner way of thinking, because the smarter the kids are, the better your life will be. So, some half-scientists, because we don't really have scientists, will really have critically thinking scientists the day they ask, why war is, why do people kill each other? What is a serial killer? What makes them that way? Why do people behave the way they do? Basically, the day they question the impact of the monetary system on people's behavior. Anyway, they've discovered that the earth wobbles on occasion. The wobbles are variable. Now, is there a reason for the wobble? No, there is a cause for the wobble. Do you understand Okay, now, someone you know tells you, if the building where you live catches on fire and the smoke makes it difficult to breathe, wet a towel. Folded into 8 layers is ideal. Hold it firmly against your face while breathing through it, preferably through your nose. Crawl under the smoke, as the cleanest air is near the ground. A wet towel in a fire is primarily used to protect your airways from toxic smoke by breathing through it. If looking for a towel delays your escape, don't look for one and evacuate immediately. Smoke is composed of solid particles, vapors, and gases. A wet towel acts as a temporary physical and chemical barrier against smoke in a fire because the water fills the pores of the fabric, acting as a filter. When wet, the fibers of the towel close up, and the water fills the spaces, trapping soot and fine particles that try to pass through. In addition, humidity helps cool hot smoke and absorb some of the hot gases and some water-soluble toxic substances, protecting the respiratory tract from the intense heat. A wet towel only filters between 10% and 40% of carbon monoxide, CO2. It should not be used as an excuse to remain in a smoky place, but rather to escape quickly. The towel should be damp, not soaking wet. If it is too wet, it makes breathing difficult and can cause suffocation. It is an emergency measure to facilitate evacuation. Never pour water directly onto boiling oil, as it will cause a fire explosion. To extinguish a fire in a pan, use a large, damp blanket or towel. Carefully place the cloth over the pan or burning object to smother it and cut off the oxygen. SANE means the most critical thinking in any situation or circumstance. The more relevant information you are exposed to, the more critical your thinking will be. In other words, the more critical thinking you have, the saner you are. Basically, you can't be mentally sane if your notions of the world are unreal. Keep in mind that at least 99% of our beliefs are unreal, all lies, strictly BS, bad science, or bullshit, wherever you wish to call it, depending on your background. Okay, now, if you ask people how you become a saner person, they don't know. We know. I recommend you subscribe to my channel so you are notified every time I upload a new video. And don't forget to like the video if you identify with this way of thinking. Thank you. In case any of you would like to expand or learn, or are simply curious to know the meaning of some Spanish words, here on a YouTube alternative channel, I have uploaded a practical English-Spanish vocabulary course, which I designed myself in my time off. I think it's a great idea to listen to it at night when you're going to sleep. You can also play it for children to listen to. As some people say, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. I've included the link in the video description.